dream. One day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Black Man Thinkin.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
Black Man Thinkin.
Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you are dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
Black Man Thinkin.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Black Man Thinkin.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Black Man Thinkin.
Stanley Levy, Black Man Thinkin, here on the dominant force of internet conservative, TalkAmericaRadio.net. Also, WWJHC Talk 92.1 FM in South Austin, Georgia. WJHC Talk 107.5 North Florida Talk Radio. FreedomInAmericaRadio.com and WLBB News Talk AM 1330 and FM 106.3 in Carrollton, Georgia. Happy Martin Luther King holiday to you all. And though it's a holiday, I guess I need to get to work. The interesting thing, or that continues to dominate the news cycle and discussions almost everywhere, seems to be the closed-door meeting that Donald Trump had with members of Congress talking about immigration. And, of course, there are statements attributed to him. Now, let's be clear. There is no one on record having said anything about certain countries being fecal voids. You have to read between the lines there. Except Dick Durbin. Dick Durbin is saying the president said that. No one else is saying that the president said that, including the president himself. Only Dick Durbin is saying that. Dick Durbin has a history of lying about what is said in closed-door meetings and history of lying about what comes out of administrations. The Obama administration called Dick Durbin out for lying about commentary that supposedly came out of it. But Dick Durbin is all of a sudden a reasonable and acceptable source of information. I don't know how that happened. But let's be clear about something. I mean, we really do need to be clear about something. Something was said, or supposedly said, regarding Haiti. Haiti is the worst country economically, materially, socially in the Western Hemisphere. It is an horrific crap hole. It sits on the same island of Hispaniola with the Dominican Republic. And once you cross over the line from one side of that one rock, that one island, to another, you would feel as though you have stepped onto another planet. So it's not the people. It's not like the Dominicans are white and the Haitians are not. It's not like the Dominicans have the side of the island with all the resources and Haiti did not get any resources. It's not as though the Dominicans did not have a history of oppression or violence and the Haitians did. Haiti's just a crap hole. Let me bring up another place, since Africa was brought up. The country known as the Central African Republic. Anyone ever heard of that place? Central African Republic. This is from National Geographic. Reporter there came back and said this place is horrific. This is from February 2014. The title of the article, Central African Republic Falling Apart in Horrific Violence. Widespread violence has again erupted in Central African Republic, where thousands of people have been killed, nearly 1 million, 20% of the population have been displaced over the past few months. Does that sound like a crap hole to you? It does to me. Do you want people from that country coming to America? Now, whether you do or not for quote-unquote humanitarian reasons, explain to me the benefit of bringing people from a crap hole into your home. What is that exactly? Well, that was way back then, and it's not the same now. Really? Well, in 2014, they said the violence had reemerged. It had erupted again. And you had 20% of the population displaced. Think about that. Well, in December 2017, they said the future was very dark. So 3 years later, it hasn't moved. It hasn't changed. Guardian says the future is very dark. Central African Republic's relentless cycle of suffering. What else do you need? So that's another part. So we got Haiti, we got one country in Africa, and here is something that I found very interesting. Gentleman on Facebook calls himself MC Chaz, happens to be from Nigeria, and he's not a Donald Trump fan, but he weighed in regarding what Donald Trump said in this regard.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, how y'all doing? It's your boy MC Chaz, and you know how we do it. It's definitely a wonderful day that the Lord has made today. Listen, very quickly, I want to address the situation of Donald Trump, and of course, a lot of people are going to make videos, okay? Some videos will have impact. Some videos will come from people that actually have sense, and some will come from people that don't have sense. But let me tell you something. I am a Nigerian living here in the United States, and if I tell you that I am upset at Donald Trump for his statement, I will be lying. What do they say about change? The first step to change is acceptance. Nigeria is indeed a hole. It is what it is. So I don't even understand why our people are upset. Let me tell you something. A country where its workers have not been paid in months is a shithole country. A country where its security system cannot protect lives, yet actually take lives, is a whole country. A country where you pay for power and you don't get that power, no light supply, is a whole country. A country where the price of food is becoming unbearable for the citizens with no due process whatsoever, is a whole country. A country where the justice system can be manipulated by certain people who have money, power and influence, is a whole country. A country where the poor, the larger masses, do not have a say, is a whole country. A country where its president accepts that its citizens are criminals, is a whole country. A country where people are dying every day because of hunger, is a whole country. A country where people go to school, get degrees and masters, and come out to no jobs, is a whole country. Oh my goodness. A country where an individual who has worked so hard in school with a master's degree ends up driving Uber or ends up driving taxi, is a whole country. So my people, what are you talking about? If your country was not a whole, I bet you we would not be in the United States of America. We would not be in UK. We would not be in Malaysia. We would not be in Italy. We will be back in our countries. So if you are hurt or if you are offended by what a racist man, a man who doesn't like black people, a man who has made it so clear, a man who is totally arrogant, I must agree that this time around he said the truth. If you're offended, let's join hands and fix our whole countries. I am not speaking for any other country because I don't know. The one I know is the one I'm speaking about. Nigeria, with its great potentials, with its substance, is a hole at this moment. And if you want to vex. For those of you who live in the United States, my God, don't let me start with you. Those of you who have not been to Nigeria in a while, those of you who don't know the current situation of Nigeria, but you are always the first person to come and type some nonsense and attack some individual. My brother, it is not today that America has not always supported black people. We didn't see it today. It has been here even before some of us migrated or some of us were born into this system. So if you're hot, forget Facebook, forget Instagram, forget about going to declare what it is that you are and what profession that you are, whether you're a doctor that is saving lives in America, whether you're a pharmacist that is saving lives in America. My brother and sister, it is good to save lives and I thank you so much. But please, what are we doing to fix our whole country? If you're not doing anything, do not be upset. As for me, Chaz, I know what I'm doing. I'm on my way back to my country to go and fix the little that I can fix, one step at a time. If we are 500,000 people from the diaspora, whether it is America, London, Malaysia, wherever you are, if we join hands, use technology, use our professions. Some of us have gone to school. Some of us are very educated. Some of us are very well to do. If we come together and one step at a time begin to fix things, begin to turn things around, I bet you in no time, no man, whether white or black, will come out and call African nations who. But for now, it is the truth. The truth is bitter, but we must accept it. Bye.
Nigeria is a fecal void. It is a crap hole. Now, does this man love his country? Sounds like he does. Is he looking for it to remain a crap hole? No, he's not. But he's not lying to himself about the state of his country. See, that is one of the things that happens very often with people of color in this country. They lie about the current state of things regarding them, and instead of working to do something about it, they can't because they don't accept it. That's one country. So we have Haiti, we have Central African Republic, we have Nigeria. What about El Salvador? Did you know that between 20% and 33% of El Salvador, the citizens of that country, are actually here? If their country was not a crap hole, then why is so much of their population here? And they've been here with protected status for 2 decades, and now they've gotten arrogant. CGTN filed this report back on the 8th of January.
January 2001, a 7.6 earthquake strikes the Central American nation of El Salvador. Hundreds of aftershocks follow. Nearly 1,000 people are killed. More than 100,000 homes are destroyed, and the local economy is ruined. Fast forward nearly 20 years. The U.S. government says El Salvador has now fully recovered. And on Monday, the Trump administration announced that some 250,000 Salvadorans living legally in the U.S. on Temporary Protected Status, or TPS, must now go back. 40-year-old Berta Soledad has lived in the U.S. for half of her life.
Pero yo no me considero ilegal.
I don't consider myself an illegal alien. I don't consider myself a terrorist.
Terrorista.
The so-called TPSer, Soledad works, pays taxes, and raises her 8-year-old American-born daughter.
Él puede estar deportándolos a nosotros.
Trump may think he's deporting us, but he is also deporting his own people because there are children who are born here, and this is their country. By ending the TPS, he is also ending the dreams of American citizens.
An estimated 200,000 children born in the U.S. have Salvadoran parents covered by TPS. Many are now of voting age, and thousands of families back in El Salvador rely on remittances sent by relatives in the U.S.
Living conditions in El Salvador are going to go down. I mean, it's already hard. It's already very difficult to live in El Salvador with the wages and salaries that we have there.
Donald Trump, shame on you! Donald Trump, shame on you!
The Trump administration has given the Salvadorans a year and a half to either leave or find other legal ways to stay. In announcing the decision, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security urged lawmakers to act.
When you build a temporary house, right, you get to a point where you have to fix it and improve it, not destroy it. You cannot destroy things that are already working. Just fix them, improve them, give them citizenship.
This isn't the first time the Trump administration has punted to the U.S. Congress on the issue of immigration and deportations. The White House is pushing lawmakers to pass comprehensive immigration reform that could affect millions of people living in the U.S., lawfully and unlawfully. Critics say the Salvadorans are just the latest group caught up in this political battle. Roby Ruttenberg, CGTN in Washington.
So many things wrong with that piece. Let's start with the fact that the Salvadorans are here because of the compassion of the United States, but they were not granted unending residency. They were given temporary status because their country was a wreck after a natural disaster. Now that natural disaster is 17 years in the rearview mirror. It's time for you to go home and put your life together. This is not your home. And the attitude that I see from the Salvadorans, which is this amazing. Well, we've been here so long. This is our country now. But wait a minute. If this is your country, why are you sending all this other money back home? Well, excuse me. You just said it. You're sending the money home. Got it. You're not Americans. Got it. Your children aren't Americans. Got it. You're not illegal. You're not an illegal. But you're not a citizen and you're not a resident. And you need to take up the same attitude as MC Chaz and go home and fix your crap hole country instead of trying to continue to drain money out of this country. Yes, you are working to earn it and funnel it back home. Go build an economy where you live, where you can support yourselves and take the 20 to 33% of your population that lives here and put them in the beautiful country of El Salvador, which you have allowed to become a crap hole. That's what you do. These countries are a mess. El Salvador is a mess. Where do you think MS-13 comes from? That's El Salvador. Nigeria is a mess. The man who is from there acknowledges same, says it doesn't have to be. Central African Republic has been embroiled in horrific violence since at least 2012. Haiti, oh my goodness. These are nations which are exactly what Dick Durbin said they were. They are crap holes. Now, please explain to me what the benefit is to the United States of taking everybody out of a crap hole country with no meritocracy attached to it, nothing that says that they're good people or would be in some way beneficial to the United States. What good is it for the United States to bring them in? And the purpose of immigration is not to help those who are coming in, it's to help the country that's receiving them. But the countries that were spoken of, they are crap. And that's the point. That's the point of resisting bringing them here, is because where they're coming from, those places are crap. Stanley Levy, Black Man Thinkin. We'll be back right after this. Stanley Levy, Black Man Thinkin, here on the dominant force of internet conservatism, TalkAmericaRadio.us. Also WDDQ Talk 92.1 FM in Valdosta, Georgia. WJHC Talk 107.5 North Florida Talk Radio, FreedomInAmericaRadio.com, and WLBB News Talk AM 1330 and FM 106.3 in Carrollton, Georgia. Let's continue on with this issue of discussing immigration. And you do realize that we really haven't had a real discussion about immigration in years. We've had a lot of arguments while nothing changed. Matter of fact, things got progressively worse. The last time you had a discussion, at least one that ended in legislation, was back in the 80s. And Ronald Reagan was wrong. The amnesty he granted turned a population of about 3.5 million illegal immigrants into what we have now, which is well over 11 million. Depending upon whose numbers you use, it could be as many as 20 or 30 million. All because Ronald Reagan got it wrong because he danced with the devil, and the devil is always a Democrat. Simple as that. And Democrat devils always mask their compromise in false or faux compassion. Look what you have to do to let me help you out with compassion. You never use compassion to destroy yourself while you're helping anyone else. That's not compassion. Go ask a lifeguard. If I go out to you and I bring the lifesaver buoy with me and you want to fight and scream and kick and everything else and don't want to let me help you and don't want to get better, my thought is you getting ready to die because I'm not going to sit there and kill myself trying to help you. That's not compassion. That's stupid. The people that are being discussed currently in the discussion about immigration, they're not desirables. And that's the point. The question becomes not, well, shouldn't we do something? The question, why do you want them here? I will tell you this up front. I would rather take the money that we give to illegal aliens and send it as foreign aid to the countries from which they originate and have them keep their people there and fix their crap hole countries. But there is an agenda for bringing these people here. And there's a reason for bringing them here, not with an eye toward making them American, but with an eye for helping them in their life situation. Let me give you the difference here. When you bring desirable people into America, they tend to be more American in their outlook. Here's the thing about being American in your outlook. Maybe you should go back and read that part of the poem, the New Colossus that sits at the base of the Statue of Liberty. Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. Liberals stop right there. Progressives stop right there. We just want they're tired, they're poor, they're huddled masses, they're refugees. We just got to help them. No. Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Not here for a handout. We want to be free. That's why the TPS El Salvadorans need to go back to El Salvador. Because you're not looking to be free. You want to siphon money out of this country back to your own country, live the benefits here, not have any allegiance to the United States of America, and then have an attitude when it's time for you. Are you serious? Get up out of here. They're not desirable. Does that mean that nobody from El Salvador is desirable by America? No. But if you don't want to be an American, you're not desirable in America. Period. Well, my children were born here. That's not my problem. Are you going to take the pledge? Are you going to take an oath? Are you going to have love for this country like the one that you no longer live in and don't seem to be trying to get back to, yet you love them? I'm not trying to make the United States of America the international side piece country. Desirables from wherever they come will be American in their outlook, which means they won't be as progressive in their thinking. Are you starting to see why the Democrat Party is so insistent upon bringing the people into this country that they seem to want? Well, we have to help the Muslim immigrants and the refugees. What have the Muslim immigrants and refugees done in the countries that have allowed them in? What would make them desirable to be here? Well, they're hurting. And there's a bunch of Muslim countries in the same part of the world with their same culture who have plenty of room and they're not letting them in. Please explain to me why you should. I don't have anything in common with these people. I don't think like these people. I'm not used to being governed like these people. They don't assimilate. If you think that Muslims assimilate, I need to show you about 9 to 14 different areas of this country where Muslims have taken themselves out off the grid or taken over certain municipalities, and the hostility they show to people who actually are American citizens. Oh, I don't believe that. I don't care what you believe. It's there anyway. These people that the Democrat Party wants to bring in, these people that the progressives want to use to flood the nation from an immigration standpoint, are not desirables. They're not American in their outlook. And that's the point. Because, see, if you're someone who is desirable, you're likely to be in the country on your merit. But this is a quid pro quo arrangement with progressives. We'll let you come here, and we're going to hurry up and make sure that you can vote. I wonder why they would do that. I wonder why you would bring poor people who need to live off other people's money into a country and have them vote. What do you think they're trying to accomplish? Not bring them in, have them establish themselves, become law-abiding and gainfully employed and tax-paying citizens, and then let's see them vote. Let's bring you in here and get you to the voting booth as quickly as possible while you're sucking on the tit of public assistance. Why would you do that if you're not trying to destroy the American ethic, which is not one of public assistance? You ever ask that question? I mean, you should. But do you ever? Because if you don't, I'm wondering. Because when they want to talk about, we can't send the children back from Mexico, why did you let all these diseased children in here? Yes, diseased, you know they have diseases. You know they have tuberculosis. You know they have all these things. And you were quarantining them not to sit there and get them better, but you were trying to make sure nobody knew how sick they were. And you were stationing them in different places pretty far away from the border, Mr. Obama, so that nobody would know what was going on. Problem is, not everybody in America is stupid. But there are a lot of progressives in this country that are evil. And that is the one thing that I think is lost in this immigration discussion. The fact that those who are on the side of the poor and huddled masses, who are not yearning to breathe free, they just want somebody to take care of them. Those people are, from an American perspective, they are simply evil. The American nation does not exist to care for every stray puppy that the world has to offer. I want people from every country who want to be Americans and have something to add to America. Let them in. Give them a process. Let them in. Make sure they assimilate into America and have American values. And if they do that, let them in. And if they continue to do that after they're in, make them citizens. Not a problem. Been doing that for more than 200 years now. Well, you're just being... Guys, y'all need to remember something. About 250,000 people never got off Ellis Island once they came. Maybe you missed that part. But it didn't happen the way you think it happened. They kicked people out of here. Why? Oh, well, some of them were sick. We got enough sick people in America. We don't need more. Out of here. Go back to your own country and be sick. Oh, that's cruel. No, it isn't. I'm not trying to build my country off the sick folks from another country. Poverty is not a reason to keep you out, although bad financial dealings was in some cases. You know what else kept people out on Ellis Island? Unacceptable political viewpoints. If your political views were deemed incompatible with benefiting the United States, you didn't get off that rock. You went on the next thing smoking back the way you came. Oh, if you were a prostitute, no, we're not letting you in. If you had a criminal background, nah, you ain't getting up in here. About 250,000 people never made it to New York though they made it to Ellis Island. They never got off Ellis Island, not heading this direction. So don't try to tell me about how we've always been a welcoming nation. No, we're a welcoming nation to a particular mindset of people. There is an American mindset. If you meet that mindset, we'll take you from anywhere. But if you don't meet that mindset, we shouldn't take you from anywhere. But when you don't like America, then what you do is you bring these people here with no meritocracy attached to their names whatsoever. And you allow chain migration, which means not only you and your jacked up ideology and your jacked up way of looking at things, bring your whole jacked up family here too. That's called chain migration. And let's hold a lottery. And the lottery is not based on any merit at all, just like any other lottery. Well, you got a ticket, and if we call the ticket, you win. And in this case, the people in the lottery are undesirables. Are you catching on to this yet? These are the people that the Democrat Party is advocating for. And that includes the DACA folks. Well, they were born here. No, you don't get it. They don't have an American mindset. The people who brought them here violated the laws of the country to get here themselves, and then they had children. Here's the thing you want me to believe, that because you come out of the birth canal and you come out on American soil, all of a sudden you have the right mindset to be a contributing member of American society? Horse feathers. It doesn't work like that. This is something that you need to demonstrate. It's not demonstrated by simply exiting the birth canal. Doesn't happen like that. And if the person whose birth canal you came out of had no regard for America, thought of it as a great sugar daddy who should pay all of the bills and take care of all of your material concerns, then that person should never have been allowed in here, never been allowed to stay, and should be removed. And if you still think like that person whose birth canal from which you emerged, then you can go with her. We got 324 million people in this country. 800,000 DACA illegal immigrants ain't gonna make a bit of difference. It is less than one monkey, and as it has been sung, one monkey don't stop no show. The issue is in really when we start talking about making America great again or taking America back, this is exactly what we're discussing. Who is American? There is no such thing as an American ethnicity. There never has been. What there is, or what exists, is an American ethic, American values. And they are shared by people of every race, creed, kindred, tongue, and other nation. And for those who have those values and wish to be here, America keeps its arms open. For those who do not, then why in the world would we want you to be here? It's really not that difficult. It's not complicated at all. But some people really, when you really don't like this country, like Dick Durbin, when you really don't like this country, like Lindsey Graham, when you really don't like this country, like Nancy Pelosi, when you really don't like this country, like Jesse Jackson, when you really don't like this country, like Al Sharpton, when you really don't like this country, I can go on and on. But when you really dislike America, you have no problem with bringing American undesirables into the nation because you know that they will work for its demise simply by their presence. You don't believe me? Walk up into Dearborn, Michigan. Tell me how much Americanism you see there. And remember where Dearborn is, next to Detroit, which used to be the most wealthy per capita city in North America. But you turned it over to undesirables, Democrats, and then black Democrats, and then it went into bankruptcy. How was that keeping up with American values? And then you let all the Muslims come in there who had no desire to assimilate into Americanism, and now they've taken over Dearborn. And look what you have done just by embracing progressivism. Guys, the people that Democrats want to ensure have immigration status that gives them access to this country are not desirable. And that's the point. All people, though created equal, all people are not equal in their thinking. America is a better country. They're not better for their diversity. They're better for their exceptionalism. People, remember something. It is progressives who have a problem with American exceptionalism. Remember that. Wow, you guys, it's a terrible notion. No, it's not. American exceptionalism is not Caucasian. American exceptionalism is not Negroid. It is not Mongoloid. It is not associated with the Indian. It is associated with 5 self-evident truths that are recorded in the Declaration of Independence. If you believe those 5 truths, then I don't care who you are, where you came from, what language you speak, what deity you choose to worship if you worship one. If you are willing to sign on to these 5 self-evident truths, then you're an American. Go poll these folks that the Democrats and progressives want to bring into this country and tell me if you can find an American among them. And the answer is, and that includes the DACA folks. Find an American among them. Because an American wants to right wrongs instead of having people tell him his wrong is now something right. And that's what DACA folks want to do. You broke the law. Well, it's not our fault. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. The situation is what it is. What are you going to do about it? Well, you need to change our status. No. You need to stop taking advantage of the system. Stanley Levy, Black Man Thinkin. We'll be back right after this. Stanley Levy, Black Man Thinkin, here on the Dumb Internet Conservative Talk. Also WJHC Talk Radio, WJHC Talk 107.5 North Florida Talk Radio, FreedomInAmericaRadio.com, and WLBB News Talk AM 1330 and FM 106.3 in Carrollton, Georgia. So we're going to wrap up the first hour of the show. Let's ask this question regarding immigration, because this is the issue, the small issue as part of the larger issue. Are the Democrats going to shut down the government because they can't get the immigration deal they want? And remember what that means, that the immigration situation does not change from a legislative standpoint, which means things continue as they are, which means more undesirable people from terrible places, which have terrible circumstances, continue to dominate those who immigrate into this country. That is the desire of the Democrat Party. It's really just that simple. And shutting down the government or threatening a government shutdown has one of 2 effects in the minds of the politically motivated. It is either going to make you move everyone over to our side ideologically because you can see that we're standing on principle here. Let's remember something. Name the last government shutdown that hurt the Republican Party come election day. Can't remember one. Every time the government gets shut down, when America goes back to vote, the Republicans seem to do exceedingly well. But the government, or a government shutdown, is something that Republicans have feared for the most part. I don't know why. And I have no idea, based on the electoral record, at least in the last decade or so, with respect to government shutdowns, I have no understanding why a Democrat would ever want one, because you get your behind handed to you. But I digress. This issue, Democrats, if you're thinking that they are actually American in their outlook, they're saying, well, we have such a principle, and this is such a big issue for us, for the future of the country, that we're willing to shut the government down for. That's really not their reason. We're willing to paralyze and hurt the people of the United States even more, because if we do that, we don't have to change. That's really what it's coming down to. And is it likely? Well, a month ago, about a month and a half ago now, almost, that question was put to Donald Trump, and he was pretty clear that he thought that that was a likelihood and something that the Democrat Party actually desired.
You still have confidence in Robert Mueller, sir?
Thank you very much.
Are we going to have a shutdown, Mr. President?
It could happen. The Democrats are really looking at something that is very dangerous for our country. They are looking at shutting down. They want to have illegal immigrants, in many cases, people that we don't want in our country. They want to have illegal immigrants pouring into our country, bringing with them crime, tremendous amounts of crime. We don't want to have that. We want to have a great, beautiful, crime-free country. And we want people coming into our country. But we want them to come on our basis. And that's why we're being so careful with our process and our screening. And as you know, we had a tremendous victory the other day in the Supreme Court with the ban. Got quite a bit of attention, probably not as much of attention as it deserved. We had tremendous, that was a tremendous victory for this country. Not a victory for me, it was a victory for our country. So the Democrats maybe will want to shut down the country because they want people flowing into our country. And I want people coming into our country, but I want to vet those people, and I want to vet them very carefully. Because we don't want to have radical Islamic terrorism in this country, and we don't want to have crime in this country.
Remember, it is the Democrat Party that had a problem with Kate Stanley and that law that was to basically punish people who are illegal immigrants who commit crimes. It is San Francisco that ignored all that and said the man who had killed her should not be punished for killing her. That's progressivism. That's who these people are. Now, remember, in order to keep the current immigration situation, I have yet to meet anyone who is American in their perspective who thinks the current situation with respect to immigration, who gets in here, who doesn't get in here, the things about the H-1B visas, which are displacing American workers, shipping jobs out of the country by bringing people in temporarily to work those jobs. And then if you have any knowledge of what's going on in IT, and if you have any idea of where Hyderabad, whatever it is, in India, where so much of customer support and so many network operating centers seem to be operating for American companies, but they're being operated out of India. If you didn't know that, if you didn't know that Disney was having people come in to take the jobs of folks that they had praised, Americans that they had praised doing their jobs, they had promoted, but then they decided, you know what, we can get this for cheaper. So I'm going to bring somebody in, I'm going to have him sit next to the guy that I've been praising and paying, and I'm going to tell him, you know what, you got 90 days to teach him what you know, and then we're going to fire you. And we're going to go on with this other guy who's not American. So for all the people who are worried about the drive for 15, please explain to me what you're going to do about the rape of those who make six figures, high five and six figures. By your government, by the way. And not only not giving that to the poor in this country, they're moving that money out of the country entirely. Where are you with that? That is what the Democrat Party wants. That's what the progressives in Washington want. And when I say progressives, that crosses party lines. There are plenty of lefties in the Republican Party in D.C. Plenty of progressives in the Republican Party in Washington, D.C. Susan Collins, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Lisa Murkowski, plenty of them. So you have to ask yourself, honestly, what is the end game? There's a political end game. Trump called it a month ago. And again, Dick Durbin remains the only one making these assertions about what terrible things were said in this supposed closed door meeting. Now, let me ask you this. Who goes into a closed door meeting? And if their goal is to try to reach an agreement with people with whom they don't agree, so they can get a legislative agreement and go out and put that and make changes in law, who comes out after that meeting looking for the nearest microphone so they can say things that no one else will confirm? The most harsh and vile things that you can imagine. Well, the president said this. Oh, I get it. Well, let's first hear what Dick Durbin had to say as he exited that meeting.
A few days before, he encouraged us to do this. Come up with a bipartisan plan that solves the problem of DACA and immigration. And as Senator Graham started to read the plan, the president started making comments and asking questions. And that's when things deteriorated rapidly. When we talked about those in the United States on temporary protected status, there was comment. They were from El Salvador and Honduras and Haiti. Haitians, he said, we don't need more Haitians. Then we went on and the president started commenting on immigration from Africa. And that's when he used those sickening, heartbreaking remarks saying those shitholes send us the people that they don't want. He repeated that. He didn't just say it one time. It was clear the president had rejected our bipartisan plan and told us to go back to work and find something else. I don't think that it's likely there'll be another bipartisan plan coming forward. I want to tell you, I left that meeting in the Oval Office in the White House sickened and heartbroken. I cannot imagine that in the history of that room, that hallowed room where the President of the United States goes to work every day, there has ever been a conversation quite like that. It was vile, it was hateful, it was racist.
So, Senator, when you hear today that the President is denying making those remarks, what do you make of that?
It speaks for itself. There were witnesses. There were 12 of us in the room. I was the only Democrat who was in that room, but I'm hopeful that Republican senators will step up and confirm what I just told you. It happened. I'm saying it because it's true.
Senator, did the President reach a new low yesterday?
I don't know that I can measure depth when it comes to this president, but I will tell you that I came back shaken, personally and politically shaken by what he said.
So no possibility for a deal?
I don't think so. I think the opposite is true. Here's what we're counting on. We're counting on Republicans to step forward and say that this attitude, this approach, these comments are absolutely unacceptable. We're asking them to join us in this bipartisan effort to solve this problem, to present to the president our solution. If they have a better one, bring it forward. But for goodness sakes, if they don't, step up and join us.
Thanks, everyone.
So let's make sure we get certain things clear. No one has stepped forward and said that Donald Trump used that language. Nobody. Trump hasn't said it. None of the others in the room have said it. Even Lindsey Graham didn't say it. Notice the other thing. Well, our bipartisan thing is done. Your bipartisan thing was a bunch of progressives getting together trying to figure out how to bring down the country through immigration and trying to legalize how you're trying to undermine the country by bringing in people who have no business in America. And the Trump administration said no. Well, he said we don't need more Haitians. No, we don't need more Haitians. Haiti needs more Haitians. The American nation does not. And as far as calling African countries names, we haven't found anybody yet, not yet, to confirm that. The only person who's making that statement is Dick Durbin, and he's saying it an awful lot. I think he's actually getting off on calling African nations crap holes. He is wearing it out. He is wearing everywhere he can. He's got a microphone stuck in his face talking about African nations being crap holes. He's just assigning those words to somebody else. Nobody else is co-signing his foolishness. Nobody. So why would you say these things? Because as soon as you go out there, you've killed as much as you can kill any hope for bipartisan agreement. So this is what you're saying. That thing that the progressives have been working on since back in the days, maybe of Bush going that far back, I'm not sure I recall, but definitely throughout the Obama administration, of trying to ram down the American throat an unacceptable immigration policy and calling it reform, you just put a stake through the heart of that. Why? Because you know it's not acceptable. So how do I replan, or how do I represent my failure before the American people as though I have not failed? I know what. I'll say that somebody said something that was so vile that it killed any hope for our bipartisan agreement, and I'll put it upon them to come. They don't have. This is the interesting thing. There is enough non-progressive voting or voters in the House of Representatives to not let any progressive plan go forward. The Senate's another issue. But we are now in an election year. And all that need happen is to have a few Democrat senators lose their seats to someone who's a Republican, and then this whole thing goes away. Dick Durbin is playing a political game. He doesn't know if he can win. His hope is that he can hold out till after the election and that maybe some voters will bail him out and strengthen his hand in the Senate. Is that likely? Personally, I don't see that. I don't see more Democrats being added to the Senate overall. But stranger things have happened. But the idea of the Democrats and the progressives is this: if you will not take our ideas of immigration and make them law, then we will not have any new law at all. That's what Dick Durbin is doing. That's all he's doing. And if you're going to let him get away with it, then I guess he's successful. Are they going to shut down the government? We'll see. Is that going to help them? It never has. Never has helped Democrats. But Democrats aren't all that bright all the time either. So I'm going to turn this over to my good friend Ron Edwards, and after that we'll be back with hour 2 of Black Man Thinking.
If you are a Trump-hating Rhino Republican who looks the other way when Democrats literally set out to destroy the Republic, prepare to be booted out of office. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, President Trump clearly stated that the corporate tax rate must be lowered now to make America once again competitive on the world's economic stage. The president even caved in to the globalists and settled at a 20% rate. But now, Republicans are seriously considering a one-year delay before cutting the corporate rate. The Republicans are also trying to gum up the works by not issuing across-the-board tax reductions, despite knowing that such measures could cause a repeat of 1981, when selfish politicians delayed tax reductions for a year and caused a recession. President Reagan agonized over the decision to give in to the statist politicians who persuaded him not to oppose their delay of granting tax relief for the people of America. I pray that Republicans will awaken from their stupor of pretending not to understand that tax cuts bring in more revenue and the wasteful spending must be curtailed. For you Trump haters, he is doing his job, and it is past time you do yours, or prepare to be booted out of office. I'm Ron Edwards.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
I have a dream. One day, this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Black Men Thinkin.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
Black Men Thinkin.
Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you are dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race.
Black Men Thinkin.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Black Men Thinkin.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Black Men Thinkin.
Stanley Levy with Hour 2 of Black Men Thinking. Dominant Talk America Radio. Also WBDT Talk America FM in Valdosta, Georgia. WJHC Talk 107.5 in North Florida. Freedom in America Radio.com and WLBB News Talk AM 1330 and FM 106.3 in Carrollton, Georgia. Well, among the other interesting things that happened, not the entire week was devoted to all things immigration. We actually had hypocrisy of billionaire proportions showing up, and in the person of Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey at the Golden Globes, they gave her an award, and she actually made a speech. And, well, let's start with the speech, which to me is kind of odd, considering the buzz that was given. This is, I believe, a representation of it from the Washington Post, which, of course, is very sympathetic toward those who are progressive like Oprah. It's not the entire speech, but give a listen, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
In 1964, I was a little girl sitting on the linoleum floor of my mother's house in Milwaukee, watching Anne Bancroft present the Oscar for Best Actor. His tie was white, and of course his skin was black, and I'd never seen a black man being celebrated like that. And it is not lost on me that at this moment, there are some little girls watching as I become the first black woman to be given the same award. What I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have. So I want tonight to express gratitude to all the women who have endured years of abuse and assault because they, like my mother, had children to feed and bills to pay and dreams to pursue. A name I know, and I think you should know too. In 1944, Reese Taylor was a young wife and a mother. She was just walking home from a church service she'd attended in Abbeville, Alabama, when she was abducted by 6 armed white men, raped and left blindfolded by the side of the road, coming home from church. She lived, as we all have lived, too many years in a culture broken by brutally powerful men. For too long, women have not been heard or believed if they dared to speak their truth to the power of those men. But their time is up. I just hope that Reese Taylor died knowing that her truth, like the truth of so many other women who were tormented in those years, and even now tormented, goes marching on. It was somewhere in Rosa Parks' heart almost 11 years later when she made the decision to stay seated on that bus in Montgomery. And it's here with every woman who chooses to say, me too. And every man who chooses to listen. The new day is on the horizon. And when that new day finally dawns, it will be because of a lot of magnificent women, many of whom are right here in this room tonight, and some pretty phenomenal men fighting hard to make sure that they become the leaders who take us to the time when nobody ever has to say, me too, again.
Very rousing. But remember, this was a speech given to a bunch of liberal women. What else do you expect to find at the Golden Globes? Well, there are men there too. Well, they're men in name only. Let's break some of this down. First of all, I really don't give a rat's behind what happened in 1944 to anybody. That's been addressed, and it's been addressed positively. So no one is living in 1944 anymore. Let's break something else down, even going with the story that she wanted to present. Nobody in Hollywood needed to pursue that dream of being an actor, of playing somebody else for money. If that was going to cost you your integrity and you chose to go that route anyway, my sympathy is limited. No, I do not believe that women or anyone else should be abused sexually just in order to make money. That's basically what pimps do to prostitutes. They abuse them and make them use their bodies to make money. I don't think that's appropriate for anyone. At the same time, if you choose a profession where you know that that's going on and you accept it, and then you want me, after the fact of your acceptance, particularly those who've become successful, and now deal with everybody else because you don't like what they did, I'm going to have a problem with that. I'm going to have a problem with Oprah for a number of things, though, because right as she gave that speech, some people got to work. Notably, James Woods got busy on Twitter, and he put out some photographs, public photographs, nobody's trying to hide it, of Oprah Winfrey with the guy who's most responsible for all this Me Too foolishness, and that is Harvey Weinstein. Mr. Weinstein, as was reported some months ago now, was an open secret in Hollywood. Everybody knew about who Harvey Weinstein was, what he did. It was even in his employment contract that he could do as much sexual abuse or anything else that he wanted. Now I'm going to say he called out sexual abuse, but so long as his escapades did not cost the company money, which meant, for example, if there was a lawsuit, he settled it out of his own pocket, then he was allowed to do as he pleased. So if you're going to try and tell me that people did not know what was going on, you're going to try and tell me that his wife was such an idiot that she didn't know what was going on, I'm not buying that one. Neither am I buying that Oprah Winfrey, who's known this guy for 2 decades, and you have pictures of her kissing him on the cheek, almost looks like she's trying to lick his ear. You have pictures of Harvey Weinstein effectively wearing Oprah Winfrey like a $1 billion accessory coat. She's all over the dude. But what you would have me believe is, despite her 20-year relationship with him, she didn't know what was going on. I'm not sure I buy that one. You want to tell me that despite her making movies with him, the Butler, her film The Butler, was produced by Harvey Weinstein. So, but you didn't know anything about him. It was an open secret. Everybody else knew. Meryl Streep knew. Reese Witherspoon knew. Ashley Judd knew. What's her name? Rose McGowan knew, and she's out there screaming and hollering. Ben Affleck knew. Matt Damon knew. So what you want to try to tell me is that Oprah, who's been plugged into Hollywood for the past 20-plus years, and is even at the point where she's working with people and getting films produced by this sexual predator, everybody else knew it was a sexual predator but her. That's what you want me to believe. You want me to believe that Oprah is that stupid. And now I have people trying to tell me that Oprah needs to run for president. Are you serious? That doesn't make a bit of sense whatsoever. Neither does her speech. Her speech doesn't make any sense. Ben Shapiro, who I'm not a great fan of, but I just think I find his voice irritating. His thought process seems to be pretty sound. But he actually took Oprah to task the day after she gave her speech, and this is what he said.
I got to let you go, but one last thing. You sort of went out on a limb today. You said you don't think she was that brave. You know, everybody on that room was up on their feet. And you said she wasn't brave last night. What did you mean?
I mean, what the hell kind of risk was she taking? She was standing in front of an entire town filled with sexual abusers and harassers. She said nothing about it for 20 years. She's being cheered by people who said nothing about it for 20 years. And there she is, pretending that she's leading the fight. In what way has she led the fight? I sort of missed it. And just because she said some stuff last night, I haven't seen how things have materially changed. I mean, Reese Witherspoon was mentioned that she measures things before Oprah and after Oprah. What changed after Oprah? Oprah said a bunch of stuff. Well, I was under the impression that most of us agreed with that stuff when this stuff first broke, and she lauded the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Where were they reporting on the sexual harassment and abuse scandal for the last 20 years? It is literally their job to cover Hollywood, and yet it took the New Yorker and Ronan Farrow to uncover all this stuff. Where was the Hollywood Foreign Press Association that was receiving such plaudits at the hands of Oprah Winfrey? Again, a woman who is good friends with Harvey Weinstein, being cheered by Meryl Streep, a woman who's gave a standing ovation to Roman Polanski.
Yeah, but there's a circle of support that ignored everything that you just mentioned so potently. Ben, thank you very much. Great to see you tonight.
Exactly. Where's the bravery? It's not brave after you've disgraced the guy who you've kissed and hugged and made movies with, even though you knew he was a sexual predator. You knew he was a harasser. You know he was serially that. Once he's been disgraced and moved on and everybody's now saying, me too, me too, there's no bravery in coming out and saying me three. None. And we're working toward the day. How are you working toward that day? You were working toward getting your film done by somebody who was abusing actresses, and you knew it. And since Oprah Winfrey supposedly has a history of sexual abuse, someone took advantage of her, which is horrific. Please explain to me how you can be so insensitive to the suffering of others when you suffered the same thing, and you knew it was going on. You would have wanted someone to step in, Oprah, when you were going through your ordeal and say you should not treat this young lady this way. But you sat there for more than 20 years knowing who Harvey Weinstein was, and you allowed him to continue to abuse. You didn't call him out. Same thing for Meryl Streep. Same thing for Ashley Judd, who basically said, you know what, I made a deal with Harvey that if I won an Oscar doing one of his films, I'd have sex with him. But you didn't call him out. You didn't out him. Why not? Because you're lying, for one, and you have no integrity, for two. Some of the stuff, we're not talking about how Weinstein, some of this stuff just didn't happen. And more importantly, women, you didn't care. As long as you were going to get your shot in the movies, you didn't care what they did with you. As long as you got your shot in the music business, you didn't care what they did to you. Until you make a little money and I say, oh my gosh, I feel so dirty and used. Really? Now you feel dirty and used? This is laughable. It really is laughable. What's even more laughable is, of course, Oprah Winfrey's hypocrisy, because people are trying to give her cover. Seal, the singer, blew all that up. And young lady Layla Lynn on her Celebrity News YouTube channel brought that story to light in this way.
What is the world coming to? Just a few days after Oprah wowed the world with her empowering Golden Globe speech, musician Seal called her out for knowing about Harvey Weinstein's antics and doing nothing to stop it. He posted this picture to his Instagram account. Oh, I forgot. That's right. You'd heard the rumors, but you had no idea he was actually serially assaulting young starry-eyed actresses who in turn had no idea what they were getting into. My bad. Hashtag sanctimonious Hollywood. Now, taking a jab at Oprah is a surefire way to dead your career in Hollywood. So, does Seal have some concrete proof that Oprah knew about Harvey Weinstein's perverted ways? He just might. Remember, Seal was married to Heidi Klum from 2005 to 2014, and Harvey Weinstein's company, the Weinstein Company, co-produced Heidi Klum's hit reality show Project Runway since its debut in 2012. In fact, Harvey Weinstein's wife, fashion designer Georgina Chapman, often appeared as a guest judge on Project Runway. So Heidi Klum and Seal may have first-hand knowledge of Harvey Weinstein's sexual misconduct, And if Seal is saying that Oprah knew about Harvey Weinstein's sexual misconduct, maybe he heard that from his wife, who used to work with Harvey's wife. Although Georgina Chapman claims to not have any knowledge at all of her husband's sexual misconduct, most wives know if their husband is up to no good, even if they don't admit it publicly. So it's very possible that Harvey Weinstein's wife may have confided in Seal's wife about her husband's sexual misconduct and Oprah's knowledge of it. Remember, Harvey Weinstein's company did produce Oprah's film, The Butler, which was released in 2013.
When you start connecting these dots, it doesn't take a lot of ink to bridge the distance between them. Oprah is no different than the rest of these hypocritical folks in Hollywood, white women especially. She just happens to be a chocolate version of them. You knew who he was. You knew what he was. Now all of a sudden, you got a problem with it. You didn't have a problem when he was making you money. What you had a problem with was somebody else going public, and then if you don't denounce, just how bad it makes you look for having looked the other way for all those years. Oprah's a fraud. Some of you already knew that. For the rest of you, welcome to Revelation. Stanley Levy, Black Man Thinkin', will be back right after this. Stanley Levy, Black Man Thinking, here on the dominant voice of Internet conservative, TalkAmericaRadio.us, also WDW, Talk 92.1 FM in Valdosta, the WJHC, Talk 107.5, North Florida Talk Radio, Freedom in AmericaRadio.com, and WLBB News Talk, AM 1330 and FM 106.3 in Carrollton, Georgia. Now, this is the part where folks are going to get mad, because I'm going to direct this at primarily black people. And it's a very simple statement. Stop doing nothing, calling it something, and being satisfied about it. What do I mean? Let me direct your attention first to an article that appeared in the Toronto Star back on the 4th of May in 2017. Program for Black Youth in Crisis at Heart of Bitter Dispute. Community groups say that the CAMH has allowed it's a crucial program to wither in face of escalating mental health issues within black communities, but the program says change part of hospital-wide shakeup. So it's a program at a hospital meant to break down silos and improve access to care. So, what do you mean here? Well, Leonard Reese used to know where to send most of his desperate cases. He used to send them to this hospital. Dedicated youth advocate, 47-year-old, often contacted by young black kids in crisis. Many were struggling with addiction or mental health issues. He himself was a sexually abused teenager, the boy whose mother abandoned him in Canada. The girl who needed a ride at 3 a.m. because her stepfather had just tried to rape her. So he dealt with all this stuff. These are among the kids he had sent to the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, which runs the province's only publicly funded clinical program aimed at helping black youth with mental health and substance abuse issues. He doesn't send them there anymore. Why? Because the program has problems. He says, I was one of the strongest advocates for the program back in the day, and Reese founded the Young Advocates for Youth organization. But I would not send anybody there right now, nobody. And he's not alone in his criticism. One side on this criticism is the community coalition that says the hospital has allowed an important program to wither and is exhibiting anti-black racism and poor leadership. Really? See, here's the problem with this. The program was there, but it didn't stop anything. Are you getting what I'm saying here? I have a program and it's helping people, but now we're trying to change it because we got budget pressures, we got all these other things and all this other, but here is the issue. If you want people to continue to put money into something, it needs to produce results. It doesn't need to simply produce anecdotal evidence of anything. Because 2 decades ago, the program was small but robust, had 6 employees, strong community presence, an advisory council that met with the hospital once a month, and it included African Canadian Legal Clinic and the Bono Institute. Today, that advisory group is gone. The program has no formal presence in the community, and staff levels have withered to just 2 social workers. Let me help you out. If the program was doing what you thought it was, do you really think that the support would have gone away? Now, I know what the canned response is going to be. Yeah, that's racism. No. It's called, at some point in time, you stop pouring water on grease fires. At some point in time, you realize that what you do doesn't work. And so you got to find another way to help, if there's another way to help, because what you're doing isn't. Well, when black kids have a problem, they need someone to call. The issue is not that they have somewhere to call. The issue is that there are so many black children in this problem, and the program isn't doing anything to stop it, and it's simply taking up money and resources and allowing people to feel good about themselves while black children continue to suffer. Why don't you see that? Well, at least they were doing something. Really? That's your argument? You see, what happened to that program in Toronto is not really an uncommon occurrence. It's not uncommon. And you get the self-satisfied volunteers like Mr. Reese, good-hearted, wants to do the right thing. You have him, you have mentors, you have government workers. Trust me, you got social workers. You got more social workers here in the United States than you probably have in Canada. All these folks who convince themselves that their efforts are positive for black folks, and they don't have any satisfactory responses to the fact that these programs don't work. What do you mean they don't work? That kid called in and they got help. What is the purpose of the program? Is the purpose of the program to service a failing community, or is the purpose of these things actually to stop the failures? Because, like I say, at some point in time, you got to stop pouring water on a grease fire. You need to smother it. And these programs smothered nothing. So when you bring that to their attention, they get mad, but they don't have a satisfactory response. They have an even less satisfactory response, at least in this country, to the fact that after 5 decades of their meeting and spending and cussing and crying and grinning and glad-handing and giving out awards and all this other stuff and networking and all the stuff they do, black young people have lower college completion rates. They have lower marriage rates. They have higher illegitimacy and abortion rates. They have higher criminality and incarceration rates. They have higher drug usage and STD infection rates, and have higher rates of homosexuality and lesbianism than any other group of young people in this country. That's not in spite of all, well, I guess you could say, in spite of all these programs you've run, in spite of all this mentorship, in spite of all these good things where 600 men show up to support black kids at school, and in spite of all this, these things are still true. Doesn't that tell you that what you're doing is not working? So perhaps instead of asking those who you consider not involved with these mentoring activities and these community programs and these outreaches and these hospital endeavors, instead of asking those who aren't involved with those activities, what are you doing to help, the whole, at least we doing something crowd of blacks should have to answer this question. What are you doing that works? What are you doing that works? And another question worthy of an answer is, why is it that other communities, whether white, Latino, Asian, Jewish, even Muslim, whatever, they have smaller percentages of problem children among their young people than blacks do, and you are pouring all these resources into nonprofits. You're pouring all these resources into community programs. You're banging down the doors of elected officials and trying to get public money into these places. And despite all that, you are doing worse with your young people than any other group, and they don't have all these programs. Is it racism? Because that's the refrain. That's the often mentioned refrain. Then I got to ask a question. Then why are the problems worse among young blacks now than these same problems were before the civil rights movement, when racism was more prevalent, more restrictive, more problematic? Folks actually got killed. And, got killed. Nobody did anything about it. All this stuff was going on. Racism was off the chain and horrific. But I didn't see this stuff. I didn't see it. Or, if it's not racism, what is it? Could it be that, maybe other groups do a better job of identifying what is acceptable behavior for their young people. Maybe they do. They do a better job of coaching adherence to those behaviors. Perhaps they do. Maybe they do a better job of intervening when people deviate from those behaviors. And maybe the way they do that is they use that tired, archaic structure that some call a family. Because your programs and your mentoring isn't working. And the black family is a shambles, particularly relative to other ethnic groups in the United States. It's also possible that these people who have these family interactions and family codes, base those codes on a belief in, God. Is that possible? And I say that because the black family and the black church, until the latter half of the last century, it produced people whose character was second to none in these United States. Didn't say they were perfect people. I didn't say they were sinless people. I'm not saying they didn't have flaws and everything else, but you didn't have that many people speaking against the character of the black family in the United States back in the 1950s. They wanted to say something about us racially, they wanted to stereotype, but the stereotypes were never true. For the most part, they were simply never true. The family, this black family that went to black churches, consisted of an imperfect black woman who was bearing and raising imperfect black children, while she actually respected and submitted herself to an imperfect black man who had his own problems, who in turn respected and sometimes even honored and obeyed a perfect God. I had all these imperfect people coming together trying to work things out under the rules and auspices and watchful eye of a perfect God. What were they able to do? Survive slavery, survive Reconstruction, gain advocates, and overthrow Jim Crow. And all the while they were doing that, the black church actually had a connection to God, and black families had a connection to the black church. Now that's all but gone. Churches are now social, not spiritual places, particularly in the black community. It's a nice place to go and meet your friends and wear your best clothes. But honor God, just because you're shouting because somebody else is shouting doesn't necessarily mean you're honoring God, but okay. Churches are social places, not spiritual places, and Bibles are less important to those folks than government program pamphlets that they may hand out. from time to time. The black family is largely decapitated and dispersed. Black men are diminished. Women are improperly elevated. And the children are almost left to fend for themselves. And Scripture is very clear. A child left to himself bears his mother. Can't do that. Encouraging folks to come out and pray has been replaced with encouraging them to turn out and vote. And you see the results since at least mid-1960s, 64. You can go back earlier than that in some areas. You see the results. So I have a question, or I actually have an assertion. Perhaps if the at least we doing something crowd were as confident in God's power and the family ethic, which works well for others and never failed blacks when it was relied upon. Never did. Respecting your family and respecting God never failed black people in this country. Never did. And when I say God, I am speaking of the God of Israel. Never failed. If they were as confident in God and family as they were in their own efforts that did not include God and family, then maybe things would be different. If there were government programs or community programs that could actually address the problems that you see in the black community, don't you think after 50 years somebody would have found it, perfected it, got it going, make it work? Don't you think so? The fact is, there never has been, there never will be such a program. But there is a God, and there is an institution that he put together that can reverse all the problems if people would consider using his house of worship as something more than a social club and a government extension office. Until black people start doing what MC Chaz said about his country, which was accepting is the first part of change. If you stop denying what's wrong, accept it, and then go about the business of fixing it, then things will get better. Unless you return to your family roots and to the God of Israel, you're going to really struggle to make the changes that are needed to produce a worthwhile next generation, not just now, but at any time. Say what you want. I know what I'm talking about always works. We're still waiting for results from what you guys have been doing. Stanley Levy, Black Man Thinkin, will be back right after this. Stanley Levy, Black Man Thinkin, here on the dominant force of internet conservatism, TalkAmericaRadio.us. Also, WDDQ, Talk 92.1 FM in Valdosta, Georgia. WJHC, Talk 107.5, North Florida Talk Radio. Freedom in AmericaRadio.com, and WLBB News Talk, AM 1330 and FM 106.3 in Carrollton, Georgia. Final segment of the show. We have an interplanetary former president. Our good friend, former President Barack Obama, believes that those who listen to or watch Fox News are somehow living in on a different planet than those who listen to, say, NPR. And that's actually, it would be a true statement, because if you listen to NPR, you are a progressive. Nobody who is right of center really can stomach listening to NPR and making that their primary news source, because it is extremely biased against anything right of center. It just is. So what he's saying is Well, you're in a different planet. Yes, it's a different planet. Progressivism is a different planet from Americanism. It is a different planet from conservatism. But the truth of the matter is conservatism is becoming a different planet from Americanism as well. You're going to have to start making up your mind which, if not both of those, you're going to reject. Because one thing you're finding out about Trumpism is simply pushing both of those other isms aside so that the American people can be heard. One of the most interesting things that I consider about the Trump effect is the willingness for white people to stop apologizing for things they haven't done. I think it's fascinating. They are now speaking their minds. They're speaking up. They are calling BS where they see and hear BS when they are attacked. Like, no, why are you attacking me? I didn't do that. I ain't got nothing to do with that. And now as a result, what we're having is a more robust national debate on everything than we've had in at least the last 8 years, and you could make the argument for probably the last 24 years, going all the way back to the end of Bush 41. You could make that argument. Am I on a different planet because I don't listen to NPR? No. I'm in a different mindset for this country because I don't listen to NPR. I'm not progressive. Is Fox News that much different from NPR? It depends. If I draw a line in the middle of a piece of paper and call that the political center, NPR would be right over there with MSNBC, maybe not as far to the left as NBC and MSNBC, but right over there with the New York Times and Washington Post and ABC. You'd find it over there. I still don't know that if I tried to place Fox, it would even make it from the left end of the spectrum all the way back to the center. This is what I'm saying. The Fox News that you see today is to the right of MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, Washington Post, New York Times. They're right of them, but that does not make them right of center. Neither are they necessarily even centrist. In my opinion, Fox leans left. Except for Fox Business News. The Fox Business Network does not seem to lean left, but the Fox News Channel, it's not what it was. And the Murdoch family has gone out of their way to make sure it's not what it was, for whatever reasons they have chosen. But here is something else that I find most fascinating about the Interplanetary Obama, which is how he's actually trying to take credit for the economy, which I find fascinating. I don't see how in the heck he can possibly do that. But what he's trying to say is, well, we laid the groundwork for this for 8 years. Let's back up. First of all, let's stop telling the lie that he inherited the worst economy since the Great Depression. No, he didn't, because the economy stayed economically or fundamentally sound throughout. The fundamentals of the economy in 2008, when the bubble burst, the subprime mortgage bubble burst, they did not change. They did not change. And one of the proofs that it did not change, June 2009, the Great Recession ended, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, who is charged with determining when we have these different business cycle changes. Are we in depression? Are we in recession? Are we in recovery? All those things are determined, and they told you in June 2009, before one dime of stimulus money was able to get anywhere out of Washington, D.C., that the recession was over. So what policies of Barack Obama ended the recession? They didn't. If you're going to say talk about policy carryover, which is what people like to do, then you're saying the policies of the Bush administration actually allowed the allowed the economy to recover from a terrible blow brought on by decades of economic policies from Democrats, which caused the subprime mortgage bubble in the first place. Different discussion. But here is something from Investors Business Daily, notably not a friend of Barack Obama or progressives in general. On December 7th of 2017, they asked the question, has anyone noticed that Trump's economy keeps beating expectations? And it starts with noticing that the unemployment claims came in lower than expected. They weren't expecting that. But it said it adds up to a pile of other unexpectedly good economic reports that keep coming out. ADP reported that payrolls unexpectedly climbed 190,000 in the month of November, but analysts had only predicted 185,000. That was unexpected. It was unexpected that consumer confidence was going to hit a 17-year high in November. Labor costs unexpectedly fell in the third quarter. Retail sales in October unexpectedly rose, and you may recall this past holiday season was the strongest I believe we have seen since 2004, which kind of bypasses all of the Obama years. Now, normally it does take months for a new administration's economic policies to take effect, but there's a reason why it didn't take months for this to take effect. Barack Obama had his neck on the American economy. All Donald Trump had to do was not be Barack Obama. It was kind of like having a young sapling tree that you're holding, a branch, so that when you let it go, it swings around and pops somebody. All Donald Trump had to do was let go. That's why getting rid of regulations has been so effective. I'm just not holding you back anymore. I'm not doing anything to pump you up. Of course, now we have tax reform, and we'll see what that does. The expectation is that's going to do great things. But all I had to do was stop doing bad stuff. Now it appears overall economic growth could be unexpectedly high. Now remember, the unemployment rate is unexpectedly low. All these things are unexpected, but they are all things that Donald Trump said were likely to occur if he were elected president. What is it that he knows that all the experts were unable to predict, but they come to fruition pretty much in line with how he says it, and they don't get it? What is that? Oh, that's right. Okay, we're living on different planets now. But I'm kind of liking the planet in which the U.S. economy does well. And I don't talk to people about the stock market. The stock market really doesn't matter. It's not a measure of the economy, because the stock market was going off the chain for all of the Obama administration, but we still had no growth in the economy. You still had workforce participation rates that were stuck in 1970s mode. So don't talk to me about the stock market. I know it's hitting even higher record highs under Trump. I don't care. What I care about is whether or not people are working. What I care about is whether or not companies are investing their money as opposed to simply stashing it. And you're like, well, no, you don't get it. When you tell businesses that they can use their money to make more money, then that's what they will do with it. They will invest it. We've had a number of companies come out and announce how they're paying bonuses to employees with some of the money that they expect to not have to pay in taxes. Is that going to be their big contribution? I sincerely hope not. You know what? Let me make this very clear. If you're receiving a fair wage from a company and now they have a windfall in money so that they can actually grow their business, I'm not looking for them to increase your wages. I'm looking for them to increase their business. Your wages will come But the idea is to continue to grow business so that even more people can participate in the economy. I'm tired of this I got mine mentality, which is what progressives build into everything. That's why they tax you so high, so that if you ever get anything, you're afraid to spend it because somebody's going to get hit. Ben Stein showed up on the Fox Business News, Fox Business Network back on the 2nd of January. And he actually made a statement about the strength of the economy and some of its political implications.
Remember all the protests when President Trump won the election. The protests still continue. Democrat socialist Bernie Sanders now hoping for, quote, the resistance to continue into the new year, tweeting, quote, here is a New Year's resolution I hope you will share with me. In 2018, we will intensify not only the struggle against Trumpism, we will increase our efforts to spread the progressive vision to every corner of the land. Let's bring in the author of The Capitalist Code. He is economist Ben Stein. Good to see you, Ben.
Honor to be here. Happy New Year to you and everybody else.
Same to you. All right, tax cuts passed. Economic growth has doubled so far last 2 quarters versus what it was under Obama. The Democrats now doubling down to try to win back control of Congress. Will that work?
I don't think it's going to work. The economy is just too strong. I think Trump personally has a great deal of magnetism left in him. I think Bernie Sanders is trying to rework the same old tired Democrat line of class envy and class struggle. When he says that word about intensifying the class struggle, or whatever Marxist phrase he used, that was just barking up the wrong tree for what America is like now. America is not as angry as his friends are. Most of America is pretty happy right now.
Okay, 'tis the season for predictions for 2018. Okay, Ben, here is the big reveal on the risk to people's money. It's about the stock market bull run. It is a stunning number of media pundits with their hit parade of wrong predictions of economic collapse in 2017 because Trump won. It's about basically what they said and what you should follow when it came to their advice. But if you follow these guys and what they told you, and there's a lot of names we're about to tell you who they are, you would have missed out on a 35% run-up in the Dow, one of the greatest bull runs in history, a $6 trillion wealth created for Americans. The predictions came that the economic collapse. The Washington Post said it. Politico said it. MSNBC anchors, too many to name. CNN analysts, Citigroup, IMF economists, New York Times, MIT economists, Larry Summers, Michael Moore, Paul Krugman, Steve Ratner, Mitt Romney, and Nancy Pelosi. Your thoughts here?
Impossible to predict the stock market either up or down. Best thing, buy the spiders, buy the index. Just hold on for dear life. I personally think the market is a bit high, but don't worry about what I say. I'm very often wrong, but the market is not wrong. So stay with the indexes, keep going with them. It does seem as if the market doesn't have much more room to grow, but that's what people often say. Markets climb on walls of worry, and this is a typical situation for that. What my worry is inflation. This economy has become so strong. Mr. Trump was right. We're going to get tired of winning, and if we keep winning at this rate, we're going to have inflation, and we do not want inflation. But I think the economy has been a miracle success story. Put not your trust in pundits, put not your trust in predictions and foreseers about the stock market. Buy the index, hold on to it.
Put your confidence in the economy. Put your confidence regarding the economy in the economy. That's really all he's saying with buy the index and hold on. If you're going to do that, and if you think that's going to make you money, you're basically saying, I have confidence in the economy. I don't have confidence in name your pundit, name your economist. I simply believe that the American people, if given the opportunity to grow their economic activity and make money, will do so. And that is the scariest thing for those who live in Planet Obama. Planet Obama was not about people making more money. It was about talking about people having a fair shake, even though the economy was growing. Let me ask you this. What good is a fair shake if the economy's not growing? So we can all have a fair shot at the same misery? Really? I don't want that. I don't know anybody who really does. But my point is, Barack Obama did live in a different universe, on a different planet, and he tried to put the American people there for 8 years. Now that he's gone, he stayed on his planet. But America has come out of that eclipse of Obama, and is now doing well economically. Domestic economics, something that did not happen on his watch, though it could easily have done so had he not lived on planet Progressive. And now the Democrats, with Bernie Sanders being one of their spokespeople, is trying to bring back that same progressive magic that kills everything it touches and have you guys go at it again. Let's all do wonderful things. Yes, we're going to do, let's all take this person's money and give it to someone else. That never works. What you see going on now is what works. Go make your money, America. As a matter of fact, we're going to take less of it from you, says the government. Did they cut taxes? They cut taxes. Did they cut taxes nearly enough? No. Did they cut taxes nearly enough on those who earn the most money? Let me say it clearly. No. Remember, under Ronald Reagan, you only had 2 tax rates, and the highest was 25, and that was still too high. But the economy was rolling. And so is the country. I am glad to be escaped from Planet Obama, and I will not go back to it again. I hope that the rest of America, or at least enough of the rest of America, agree that Planet Obama needs to stay in its solar system and far away from the United States of America. And that's for sure. God bless you. God keep you. Until next week, God says the same. Talk again. Do take care.
You've been listening to Black Man Thinkin' with your host, Stan Levy. Join Stan midnight to 2 a.m. That's late Monday night into early Tuesday morning. And find him on the web at Blackman Thinkin' without the G. That's blackmanthinkin.com.